Welcome to the CocoKids Playbook, a podcast by CocoKids. I'm John Jones, Executive Director of CocoKids. Hello and welcome back. And today we're with Joanne Funtila from CocoKids. Did I pronounce that correct?
Fun.
Fun?
Yeah,
Oh,
fun.
like lots of fun. Okay. All right. And you're the inclusion specialist, right? And how
hmm
long have you been the inclusion specialist at CocoKids?
Right now it's 4 years,
Okay.
but
But,
before that, total, I think it will be 18 years.
okay. And
Supposedly, last 5 years.
And
So,
tell everybody what club you're in.
and the Boomerang Club,
Okay.
right?
And what is the
Because
Boomerang
I
Club?
because I've been back and forth 3 times. I have the most
All right. So
come
so
back
you've
here.
you've left us and you've come
Yes,
back and you've
every
left us and
time.
you come back
Yeah.
because you realize this is the most rewarding work you could ever do.
It really is. I really love the people I work with and what I do.
Okay.
That's probably the best part.
All right. So you have 18 years of experience. Was that all working in the inclusion programs?
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. So tell me a little bit about yourself. What got you into working
Oh
with
my
Oh,
goodness.
actually first
hmm
define inclusion and then you can tell me how you got
Oh,
involved.
inclusion is actually just including everybody, no matter what, if disabilities or race or whatever, then they are always included in everything.
Okay. So what drove you to this line of work?
I love working with children with disabilities.
Okay. So,
I have a special education teaching credentials,
okay.
and at UCSF, and I taught preschool and kindergarten special day class in a public school all the way in Fremont. I used to drive, and I also had a childcare, my own childcare for a year.
Okay.
So
And
I
within
had
that
children.
childcare, did you have children with
Yes, I
disabilities?
did. I did have a child with autism, and that was really, really different.
Hmm.
Um, and it's the inclusiveness. I think being ready for all children in your class is so rewarding.
Okay. All right. So what initially was the reason why you entered the field?
I don't know.
I hear you love children, but
I
was
think
there a moment or an event
hmm,
or
I think it stemmed from my parents being pediatricians.
okay.
So being with children the whole time, being exposed to it, having 5 siblings, I'm
Okay.
the oldest. I think I just love it. Even if autism wasn't a term before, I used to read books about that. And I'm just fascinated about it. And just, I don't know, it's a magnet for me
Okay.
to be
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah. I started off teaching special ed too, but I
Mm.
was working with kids with emotional disabilities, so
Oh,
it was
that's
more
tough.
behavioral issues. Than most. So now you've been a part of the inclusion program the whole time.
Yes.
And for people that know our program, they know that it's grown and it's shrunk
Mhm.
and it's grown and shrunk. It really depends on the funding availability. So in your experience, what is some of the obstacles parents have to go through in order to get the services they need for their children?
Right now, to get the services, I think first of all is getting the assessment. Um, is getting the assessment is just a tough part because they have the long wait list.
Okay, so
So
who do
what
they
do
go
you
to an
do?
assessment for?
Um, Maybe for all the different symptoms that they have, the red flags that they see. Maybe from the providers they go to, right? They go to a provider, they see some red flags, maybe communication delay, sensory behavior. They see some of these red flags and symptoms, and what do they do next,
Okay, so I'm a new
right?
parent. This is my firstborn
hmm
child. How would I know what a red flag is? Who would tell me, or how would I know?
I think you have that instinct as a parent. You would have that
Okay,
instinct. It's like, I don't know if this is typical or not, but educating yourself too. I always give parents some milestones. I will give you some milestones, CDC milestones, and screening tools. I think that will be good tool to have when you go to pediatricians, even providers, knowing that ASQs or other screening tools are available for you, just to know if your kid is growing typical or not, and then finding if and then knowing if you need to get assessed further. right? And if there are others, and if there is a diagnosis, then that what do you do next? That's always a big question for families.
Okay, so what is the next step? So I've gone out,
Mhm.
I've talked to my pediatrician, I've done you said an
And
assessment,
mhm.
or a screening in a
The
sense.
screening first.
Okay, so the
Uh-huh.
screening leads to the assessment. The assessment says yes, your child has delays in these
Mhm.
areas. What now?
What now, right? So most of the pediatricians will say they'll grow out of it.
Okay,
Right. That part, we have to make sure that you advocate for your child. You know that there is something going on. I do want further assessment. So just tell to your pediatrician, I do want to have my child assessed
okay,
and the assessment will be more detailed, and that's when the diagnosis comes in. With the diagnosis, that's where the services comes to,
okay. So
right?
services
hmm
from who?
From it can be from speech therapist to
Okay,
occupational to physical and even behavior.
okay, all right.
So, or that's the medical side. And then if it's the educational side, then you go to the school district.
Okay, so the school district does provide some of those services,
Yes. So,
and on the medical side, you can. So what are some of the common um, issues that parents may encounter? Some of the more common red flags.
for before the assessment,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Or even after, like
After.
if you get a diagnosis,
Mhm.
what are some of the most typical diagnoses?
Autism is a big
Autism.
one right
Okay.
now.
Why
Even
is
with
that?
I, I think they just have the assessment tool now to get it diagnosed faster
So we
and
just kind of
better.
figured out what we were doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unlike before, it was all intellectual disability. Now they're more focused to is autism, it's ADHD, it's learning disability, it's something else.
Okay.
Or with genetics, it can also be Down syndrome, but that's pretty obvious too.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I have my diagnosis. I've talked to the school district, but I'm a parent. I need to work also. So
Oh my
I
God,
I need to
yes.
find someone to care for my child,
Mhm.
and I'm assuming this is where you you step in,
Both, yes.
so tell me a little bit about that. If a parent came to you and says, "I can't find a child care provider who's willing to address my child's needs," how can you help them?
So first of all, there's a difference between the early intervention, which is birth to 3. So if you have a diagnosis for children birth to 3 or under 3 years old, then you will go to regional center,
Okay.
especially if it's 33% delay
Okay.
in one
So
area.
tell me now what regional center
Regional center
is.
is. Don't have all these questions. Regional center is a program where they do early interventions, and also for adults if they have a diagnosis. But you have to be eligible. You have to have a diagnosis in order to get those services.
Okay. So in
Early,
California, that's funded by
that's
the state of California. The state
yes.
was Department of uh, Developmental Disabilities, right?
Geez,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So birth to 3. After 3 years old, if the child is 3 years old, then they go to the school district for more services.
Okay. All right. I have to correct myself. It's the Department of Developmental Services. DDS.
DDS,
Okay.
yes. And then you go to the school district for 3 and up.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So we still encourage parents to do the diagnosis through the medical insurance, and then and then the educational side will be different for other services.
All right. So when does inclusion come into play?
So inclusion comes to play when sometimes parents call me if the child just got diagnosed. And so what do they do next again? So I direct them to either Care Parent Network, which is a great support for families with children with disabilities because they are parents themselves helping these parents. They've been through, I mean, a lot of different, they have a lot of tips, right, for
Right.
parents already. So that's one. And then for other resources would be 211 for other, especially ones with homelessness and other financial
Yeah,
strain
you're going to hate this.
subsidy.
So, for people who don't know, what is 211?
Oh, 211 is, help me grow,
So it's run by the Crisis Center.
yes, and, they do help families and direct them to other community resources as well too.
Okay, so essentially 211 is the 911 for services.
That's right.
Right,
That's a
okay.
good way to put
Okay.
it. Yes, and it's also funded by First Five.
I think they do
Mhm,
put money into it.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and, where were we?
Now you were explaining, just start at any point. You were explaining
Uh,
the
so so school district, they got diagnosed, they go to the school district, they get assessed to the school district. If they are eligible, they can get speech therapy or be in a special day class. Okay. Once they're in a special day class and they have all their interventions. But the tricky part is, even if they do have a special day class, they still need childcare.
right. Okay, that yeah,
Because I
that
know
was my
that
question because we were
exactly, right?
yeah, I want to know where the inclusion piece comes
Yes.
in.
So that's where the inclusion piece comes in. They can also call if they have other things can I do while
Mhm.
at home, or I do need childcare after, because they work. That's hard for families where they go to they work 8 hours a day, 9 hours, 10 hours a day, and the school is only 3 hours. So what do they do after that? Um, it was easier during pandemic because they are able to go back and forth and do transportation, but now they're more full-time away from home, or even at home they have just more work and they cannot afford to go about and do transportation. So what do? They look for childcare, and that's where I come in too, because I do enhanced referrals. So I do filter those programs for them, and they can call. It's still not my job to call for them. It's
Right.
still their responsibility to call, ask these questions, build that communication with the provider to make sure that it's a good fit. Because what I don't want for families is for the child to be jumping from one childcare to the next. We don't want
So let's
that.
pretend I'm a child care
Hmm.
provider and I want to serve this child who has is on the autistic
Hmm.
spectrum, but I don't know what to do.
Hmm.
So if I come to you, how would you coach me into providing for
Okay,
that child?
first of all, when I refer children to providers, they already have service. They already have experiences with dealing with children with special needs. I don't like dealing with special needs, but with disabilities, right?
Okay.
So, um, if they do need further help, the first thing I ask them, your first resource would be the family, the service providers that works with the child already, like speech therapists, occupational and behavior therapist, and then you can also call me for more resources.
Okay. So you're
So
focused
those
on
are
people who have experience already working
or
with the
not. I
clientele.
still can help them because I still call them if even if they don't have no experiences
Right.
with children with disabilities, they can still call me because I want them to feel comfortable. I actually call them, and then even if I call them and even if they don't have any experiences, but when you talk to them, they do have the experience. It's just a matter of connecting with them and telling them that you do have the support. We do have the warm line for you to call if you encounter children with disabilities. Sometimes they come in your program, they've been there already, and then you still find red flags. And what do? Once they're already there, you already have a relationship with a family, you already have the relationship. You don't kick them out. You ask for help so that you can help the family too. So and then we work together. The family can call me. We can all work together and find whatever resources that they need, how to get the child assessed. And if the parents are not ready, that's okay. You just meet the family where they are.
Okay. Now, if a family if a so actually, and my other question was about the inclusive environment itself.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
when you describe these sites or providers who serve kids with disabilities, they're not serving exclusively children with disabilities, right?
Nope.
So basically, they have all abilities there. So,
Yes.
in what advantages does that have for the children being, first, what's the advantage for a child with disabilities being in a all abilities environment? And
Yes.
then what's the advantage for a child that's typically developing being around
Mhm.
children who have a disability?
Yes. Um, One of the things that I talk to providers about when I ask them about having a child with disability is always a positive thing. For s- I mean, I would still see some negative, but most of them was like, "Oh, when I had a child with Down syndrome, it was the best time because all the children had so much fun and they were so empathetic and kind, and you build that community with a child and sense
Hmm.
of belongingness, right? And it just feels good to have that value, right? That if for a child to grow up, that even if you're different, it's okay to be different. It's okay to accept other children with different who are different learners. And I think it stems still from the adult.
I'm in
Yeah.
total agreement. I once ran a program for kids with developmental disabilities,
Uh-huh.
and we actually took a classroom apart where it was exclusively kids with developmental disabilities. And then we had typically developing kids in there. And then I think with the ratios, we had two kids with a disability with
Mm-hmm.
eight kids who were typically developing. And it's exactly like you said, the typically developing kids became so empathetic.
Yes.
It was amazing how they grew in that program where you didn't necessarily see that in an environment where all the kids were basically the same. So yeah, I agree with you that there's a plus on both sides of it. And plus, kids with developmental disabilities, they learn, even if it's in terms of how to play or walking, or even if they have a behavioral issue, they
Mm-hmm.
see other kids kind of they mirror so quickly and they learn
Yes.
how to do the things they need. What about with parents? What obstacles are parents coming across, and or what do you hear from parents when they know their kid has just been diagnosed? And I'm assuming there's a strain in the household just with that.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing?
The hardest part for I think the most challenging part is getting the services.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the biggest thing. They do have the services, but then they have to wait for a long time.
Right.
Even if the diagnosis itself takes a long time. So in the meantime, what do you do? Inclusion actually helps with that too. It's like here are some things that you can do while you wait because they're already seeing the behavior. They're already seeing um, the behavior and the symptoms, and they don't know what to do. So while waiting for a diagnosis, so just the wait time to get those diagnoses, accessing services is a big thing. Aside from the juggling the schedule
Mhm.
of the different therapies, right? Going from one therapy to another and going to school and job and all. So just juggling all of that in a household is really hard for the families and childcare, looking for childcare.
I was just told once that for parents, and this was actually was a men's group that we were hosting, and one of the participants had said the hardest thing about learning your son has a disability is that all your hopes and dreams have changed. It's like I thought my kid was going to be this all-star athlete, and now I find out he can't do those things.
Mhm.
And so that was like the challenge for fathers in a sense, and I'm assuming it's the same challenge for mothers, realizing that the child that you envisioned or imagined is going to be different, and
Mhm.
and uh, and now you have to kind of shift and adjust. And I've also heard people say, you really never get a challenge. That the reason these children come to you is because you are capable of handling this challenge,
Good.
and hopefully your program is providing the tools that they need in order to see these
Yes.
challenges head first. For parents, any parent listening today who feel like their kid has some red flags or they just got a diagnosis, if you had to give them a first piece of advice, I'm not going to say only piece, but like what would be the first thing you would tell them to do in order to address this challenge ahead of them?
I think the first thing I would say is just connect with a child, build that relationship with that child. Um, to communicate. be able to see him who he is and meet him where he is or she is, and give him best. I mean, just give him the best, the love and whatever you want him to learn. He can still learn it, or she can still learn it, in her own way. Be patient. Just be just be there for them. Be present.
Present.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for coming in today, Joanne. So we've been joined by Joanne Funtila,
Fontella.
our inclusion specialist at CocoKids, and I'm John Jones, the executive director. And I thank you guys for listening today. Hopefully, you'll come back to listen to the next episode. Take care.
Thank you,
Thank
John.
you, Joanne.
Uh-huh.
This podcast was brought to you by CocoKids. Thank you to Letty Cuizan, executive producer, and Faith Donathan, line producer.